Hello again, everyone. Florence Theriault here, and I have some wonderful items to share with you today and some great stories to tell. So let's get started and let's go. We're very, very proud to be able to present the collection of Karen Rockwell of California, one of the most important doll collectors of the past, 30 or 40 years. Karen was a serious researcher, a very, very dedicated sharer with other people of the things that she learned, and was constantly searching out new subjects and new items. She had one doll in particular that was one of her most beloved. And it was a doll that she named Miss Lily. And that is what you're seeing right here on this table. You're seeing Miss Lily and kind of her life story because it's all of her possessions. Karen acquired Miss Lily perhaps 25 or 30 years ago from a private collection. I have no records of who she collected it, who she resourced it from, if it came directly from France or if it came from another collector here, but it became almost like her signature doll. And Karen would take this to doll shows, and she would take it to doll conventions, and she would show all of her pieces with it. And over the years, she would add things to it and show different accessories or different costumes or different pieces of furniture. And in her home, she had it displayed in one entire cabinet with all of these pieces. Well, the issue came to be selling her collection. And we made a decision that the goal would be to try to recreate Miss Lily, as she named her, as she appeared in this original photograph, which was given to Karen when she acquired the dolls. Now, Karen was like all doll collectors. She loved her dolls, and she wanted to give them presents or give them gifts. And many of you who have seen her at conventions or shows might have seen her with other pieces of costume or other pieces of furniture. And actually, you will see them throughout the rest of her auction and collection. But this is what Miss Lily, as she named her, originally owned. Why Karen named her Miss Lily, none of us know. It was just a name that she chose. The doll was made by Leontine Romer in Paris about 1860, and she is an absolutely extraordinary doll, a very, very beautiful doll of the example of Leontine Romer's work. And she is here wearing her original costume as it was acquired by Karen at the time. And I'm going to show at the back. You can see that as well. And also check out her beautiful, beautiful snood. I just kind of think a snood should have a revival because, boy, is that an answer for a bad hair day. The French knew how to do it right. And in fact, Karen seemed to like snoods too, because when I show you other accessories she has, you're going to see it kind of gets repeated over and over again. Now, in this, she had also, in the original photograph, the dresses that are shown over here. And I'm going to show you some of them from the back so you can see how really wonderful they are. I love this little, it's very, very simple cotton dress made elegant with little blue bows all over, including a back sash. A very, very lovely cotton day dress right here. See how it's constructed around the back? And then we have a beautiful blue, like a twill. It's a silk twill, very, very lovely, with black velvet trim. You see a lot of these repetitive things going over and over. One of the things that I hope will come clear today as we're talking, and I kind of know this because I've worked with fashion dolls for so long, you kind of know the colors that were appropriate for their time period. And when I was working on Karen's collection, because it's so centered on fashion dolls, it really came very clear to me how she has that too. And so we're going to show you as we go along colors that were dominant during this time period. And so for those of you who are costuming dolls that you presently have, you want to try to make sure you get the same color tones that were popular. Well, in my book, you can never have too much piqué, and particularly when it has this kind of wonderful, simple construction and beautifully detailed embroidery. Beautifully constructed. Look at how the skirt, for example, is flat paneled in the front and then has the wonderful pleats in the back, the cartridge pleating. And this wonderful trim that centers, goes all around the dress, including on the edges of the sleeves and the collar, which extends all the way around. Very, very wonderful. And this beautiful ivory silk gown with, again, its wonderful embroidery and trim. There's lots of great accessories as well. We have hats and suitcases and parasols and purses, and they're wonderful. And I want to show you two things in particular that came with the doll. And one of them is this wonderful photograph, this sepia photograph, like a trade card. And down at the bottom, it actually has a title, which is Miss Lily's First Waltz. And it's a child teaching her doll how to waltz. Perhaps that was where Karen got the name for her doll. But she might also have gotten it from this, because here also, accompanying the doll, is a series of calling cards and envelopes. And look what's on them. Mademoiselle Lily. How appropriate. It's just a wonderful thing. You might also have seen in the, what year was this? Well, it was a 57th UFDC convention book titled Tell Me a Story. And there's a wonderful article in here written by Michael Canadas, and it's called The Rich Life of Lily. And it kind of fantasizes how Lily lived in France as a little girl, a little doll when she was young, and she belonged to a little girl. And then she came to America and all of the things she owned. And anyone who has this, this can go along with the doll, whoever buys it. You'll also see many other costumes in here, which were, again, pieces that Karen shared with other collectors when she exhibited it at UFDC conventions. Pieces that did not come with it originally, but it's just an absolutely wonderful story, and you'll enjoy that. She was so generous in all that she did, and I think it's so important. Miss Lily was the featured doll at another convention in Philadelphia, the one about Remember the Ladies, and she was featured there in the exhibit they did on Remember the Ladies. So a lot of you may remember Lily. And it helps us to remember Karen, because she gave a great gift to the doll collecting world with her willingness to share. Very vivacious, strong woman, somebody we're all proud of. Let's move on and look at other pieces from the collection now. Well, Miss Lily, as I said, was made by Leontine Romer of Paris. And to me, it is very, very important to talk about Leontine Romer. The poor girl has been given a bad rap, because everybody loves Hooray, and well, you should. She is the star. But Leontine Romer did absolutely wonderful dolls, and the intermix of the two people in their competition with each other was really an extraordinary part of French doll history. We have here today, showing up on this top shelf, 5 dolls by Leontine Romer. And what do you notice first of all about them? I didn't pay attention to this when I was cataloging them, and only when I put them up on the shelf did I realize she has all of the 14 inches. Now, Leontine Romer, the classic doll size of the time period that she was making dolls in the 1860 era, was the 17-inch doll. That's where it was introduced, and that was the classic size. The 14-inch was also made, but they're much rarer and more difficult to find. And clever Karen, she has 5 of the 14-inch size, and they have great variations in what they are doing. I'm going to talk to you about them a little bit, and then I want to read you a great piece of information which I find most intriguing. She had made them in porcelain, and she made them in bisque. She made them with painted eye, and she made them with glass eyes. She made them with smaller glass eyes, and she made them with big dramatic glass eyes, all of which were very, very important. She also was a very creative woman in that she instituted various patents for her doll. And one of the most significant ones that collectors look for, and I'm going to try to pick a doll that probably you can see it more visibly than others. And this is one. If you look, and if they have their original wig, you can often see at the top of the head an original little flat metal pin. And that metal pin was a technique that she used to attach the head to the shoulder plate and the torso. And she did this for a particular reason, because one of the things that Leontine Romer did was a patent to prevent the head from swirling around in a freaky way like a doll head can. You could put the front of the head, face at the back of the head. She said, no, it's like a human. Your head only goes so much so way. So her head system was designed to prevent the doll from swiveling completely, that it would only go side to side. And that's why they have the flat cut neck socket as opposed to the cup and saucer fitting in there, and a very distinctive shoulder plate that's designed to accommodate this. It's this is one of my favorites of her dolls. I think she has a beautiful face. Early bisque with painted eye, as opposed to the first one you're seeing up there, which is early porcelain with a painted eye. And I went turned around so you can see her costume all the way around, because it's a beautiful, beautiful costume. Very, very lovely. These sheer materials, to me, it's so extraordinary to consider how these fabrics have lasted all of this amount of time. But it's absolutely wonderful. So I want you to be looking at those 5 dolls, and the cameras just keep showing. Oh, let me show you the first one, because this is one of the first lots in the catalog, and I just love her. Again, looking at different colors that were dominant during this period. Pay attention to the color of her dress, because this like a moss green or an apple green aqua color is one of the dominant colors of the time period as well. And then this wonderful fabric. Whenever you can find a doll with this fabric, this sheer type fabric, it is so typical of the era and so absolutely wonderful. She has the painted eyes, and she has the neck. I'm going to see if I can do it easily. I don't want to trouble her. But again, her head just goes side to side. She's carrying a market basket, and she has a little book with an English title, Doll's Party. And that indeed was Karen's collection. It's a party. It's absolutely wonderful. So while you're looking at those, let me just tell you something. So Adelaide Harade had patented her doll body, this very distinctive doll body. And Leontine Romer came along, and lo and behold, she came up with a doll body that was, for all practical purposes, in proportion, in size, and other ways, identical to Harade's. Now, it was made of a different material, and it had other differences, but there was a lawsuit. All right, Adelaide sued Leontine. It was a big lawsuit. Actually, she sued, Adelaide Harade sued Leontine Romer's husband, but the court found the husband was not at fault. He was only doing what his wife had asked him to do, and Leontine Romer was the one at fault. And actually, she was found guilty, and she was not able to make this body, which was a near duplicate of Adelaide Harade's. So, at any rate, time went on. This was in the early 60s. Then there was going to be the 1867 exposition. And Leontine Romer wanted to exhibit her dolls there. She had wonderful dolls, and she wanted them to have a fair shot. So she wrote a letter of application to them. And I think this appears in, and if any of you do not have the 2-volume set, the Encyclopedia of French Dolls, you run out and get it soon as, wait till I finish talking. And then run out and get this book, because there is so much information in here. Thank you, Francois and Danielle Timer, for the incredible research work that you have done on French dolls. No one can ever praise you enough. Well, in there, he tells a story of this, of the lawsuit, and he has a complete translation of the whole lawsuit findings, which is fascinating. But then he also has, there also appears the letter that Leontine Romer wrote to the 1867 exhibition committee trying to get her dolls exhibited there. And it tells us a lot about her business, and it's so fascinating to me. Here's what she said. She said when she had started to make dolls, she said she wanted to make a doll that came halfway between the dolls of Pierre-François Jumeau, which had these rigid bodies that if you tried to bend them or anything, they'd break. Well, that was just a classic kid body, and they'd break and fall apart. Or Adelaide Harade, with her bodies that did articulate, but they were fragile. They broke easily. And that was her goal. So she said that's the kind of thing that she has worked toward. And even one of the characteristics of Adelaide, or rather of Leontine Romer's dolls, is I always describe it as soft. It's not a soft body, but you know how most French poupée bodies, the kid, if it's still in great condition, it's really tight. It's very, very firm. Leontine Romer it was filled more softly, and it had I think it gave it more of a longer life because the bodies tend to have been preserved very well. She came up with all sorts of articulation system of wooden joints in the knees, that type of thing that would make the doll able to be preserved for a period of time, and that's a study in itself. But here's what she said in the letter. Even without the help of a retail outlet or a proper showroom, so she had no outlet, she had no showroom, without a sales force or advertising, and with no hint, with nothing but a 15 centimeter, that's not much, deep stand that that's the size stand that police regulations would allow along the street, I put up my dolls for sale on the Boulevard des Italiens in Paris. So she was selling her dolls on the street in a stand. From there, my dolls traveled to the whole of France and beyond. I don't mean just individual dolls that have traveled abroad with their owners, but merchants in the trade who sell them in quantity. I use kid leather procured on the Paris market, where I also have it dyed and glued. I employ no workers at the shop. I have the dolls' wooden articulations turned on a lathe in Strasbourg. I subcontract the zinc metal parts in Paris. The porcelain parts come from Charenton. Big clue there. All the components I need to make a complete doll are delivered in bulk to my workshop of assembly. And then I cover my overhead costs by a parallel trade in doll trousseau. So she is laying out for us what we know about most of the French doll makers of this time. The doll may bear their name, but they gathered parts and then they assembled them in their workshop. Interestingly, she says she employs no workers in her workshop. So does this mean that she literally assembled all of the dolls herself? It seems a stretch, but I don't know. She actually got turned down at the exposition, and only later was she able to enter her doll because someone dropped out, and so they said, okay, come on, you can come in. They let her in, and then she did win a bronze medal. But she had a tough time up against Theriault, and I love her dolls. I think they have very sweet faces. They have the very characteristic plumpness of the early French. But let's move on to the grande dame of French poupées, and that is the Theriault doll. And the cover of our catalog is titled Miss Lily and Friends. And we have Miss Lily from Adelaide, from Leontine Romer. And we have this extraordinary poupée from Adelaide Theriault on the cover. And I'm going to bring it out to show you, because she is just an absolutely wonderful doll. There are so many different characteristics of the Theriault doll, and people look for them, and they look for certain things. They like the painted eye, and they like the swivel head, and she has it. It's absolutely wonderful. She has a wooden body, which is not the original gutta percha, but that was likely was put on in the actual Theriault boutique at some point, because it does have the kid collarette with the stamp of Maison Theriault on the front. Extraordinary face. I think one of the most beautiful Theriaults I've ever seen. One of the characteristics of Theriaults is the decorative glaze that was put at the lower edge of the eye cut, not below it, but right at the lower edge, picking up the coloring and giving the dolls almost a glass-like appearance or a real eye-like appearance. It's not a flat painting. It's just extraordinary craftsmanship. Her costume and all is absolutely extraordinary. Very, very beautiful Theriault. The other two Theriaults from her collection are shown over here. These are both porcelain Theriaults, and they both also have the replaced wooden bodies with the Maison Theriault label on the front of their kid collarette on top of the wood. And they're very, very beautiful. Their shoulder plate, and the girl over wearing the white dress with the red trim, that stunning dress, guess what? Open it up on the inside of the waistband, Theriault à Paris, the original stamp from Maison Theriault. She's wearing a stamped Theriault dress, and she has marked Hooray shoes. And you see the mark. Sometimes the stamp, you have to come in really close to look at it, but the stamp is there. It's a green stamp that says Hooray à Paris. One of the things that's very characteristic about the Jumeau shoes too is the leather sole it's very, very soft. It's very different from soles that you find on other shoes. And I have personally not seen this ankle boot before, which I think is quite distinctive, quite unusual of the signed Hooray shoes. So a very beautiful girl here also. Very lovely. Let me show you the back of her gown. And check out that wig. Wow. Very, very lovely. Now, I think we'll stay with Hooray for a moment because this was one of Karen's particular focuses of interest. And so she has other Hooray pieces that are not dolls. And there are several costumes, and she also has several pieces of furniture, including the Hooray table. The Hooray family originally had been in business making people-sized metal furniture of this style. And I guess along the way of her coming up with the doll, the father and brothers decided, well, we could make doll-sized furniture the same that we make them for people. When you can sometimes, if you're very lucky, you can find them with the original stamp on the underside, and that's what you want to look for. Pull this out of the way. It has the Maison Hooray and the street address in Paris where they are located, which, by the way, today, where Adelaide Hooray had her shop, it's a McDonald's store. That's a little sad history, but that's okay. We can go with it. Well, when she made dresses, and I have two quandaries that I'm asking someone, and if anyone there can help me out on it, I would love to know. The dresses you sometimes can find, like the one I showed you that's wearing the dress, it's on the inside of the waistband. There's like a twill band on the inside of the waistband, and there it will be stamped Hooray à Paris. And then you know you have a dress that was made by Hooray for the Hooray boutique. However, my question is this. If you find a dress that has that same waist construction and it doesn't have the stamp, is it logical to conclude it's a Hooray dress? I don't know. Maybe some of you have come to the conclusion. To me, it would be really important to know because I have many other dresses that Karen has from her collection that have that construction, and I would, if anyone has any knowledge about this, do let me know. It's something that we all could really, really share with other people. But this one has this beautiful black dress, and it's so difficult to see this and see the complete construction of it because of the black color. But I hope the camera can even pick up the fabric because it's just this wonderful, let me find it. It's like a brocade type of very, very beautifully woven design there. And then to decorate it is the work going down the front, the overlapping silk work. The sleeves are a wonderful construction because they're very puffed out. But if you saw how they were made, they're fitted on the inside, and then the cupped puff is on the outside. Very, very lovely. This is another signed dress, signed on the inside waistband. Has a little spot here in the front. We didn't try to work on it. I don't know if whoever would be the new owner, if they would find a way that they could remove that spot, but it doesn't matter because you just have to look at the construction and look at the inverted pleats set into each other, and then look at the back and look at the wonderful bow at the back. Absolutely extraordinary. You do realize that all of the blue trim here is not just a band. There's a band on the top, but the bottom layer, there are little pleats. It's an extraordinary costume. And the other third signed dress is this wonderful piece with fabric that is just unbelievable. Very, very sheer. And look at how simply it's woven, but that pattern is woven into it. It has the bretelles, the ruffled bretelles, and it has ruffles on the little sleeves. Wonderful dress. Again, signed on the inside waistband, Maison à Hooray. And we have her pose on another table, which is a signed Hooray table. Well, let's look at some of the other fashion pieces we have in the auction. And since we were talking about clothes, I'm just going to start right over here and go down and talk about the pieces that are here. And I want to show you two other beautiful pieces. As I said, Karen loved really good clothing and accessories. And this was one of my favorite pieces of the costumes that she had. This wonderful, like a natural linen gown. Let me just pull it up a little, and I'm going to turn it around so you can see the back side. Really, really extraordinary, with the pagoda-style sleeves that are narrow at the top and then flare out in this dramatic way. You can just see someone flourishing, showing something, and how absolutely wonderful. Intricate construction, pleats that are wider here, narrower here, and then repeated and then trimmed with this extraordinary handmade lace, crocheted lace, just beautiful. This is a wonderful gown. It has some wear at the back. Again, this fabric, I don't see how it can last at all, but I know that someone can work on it and try to bring that train back up. But look at the front, and look how elegant. I mean, you can see someone walking in the ball that way, wearing this gown. Everyone's eyes would go to this person. Very, very lovely ruffles, and then lace edging on the ruffles, and the beautiful bows all over. And look at the back. Just look at that. See it from the side. You can see the fitting of the bustles on the back. And then look at it all the way down. And here's where the wear is down on the final ruffle down here, which could be backed, but we leave that to you to do, whoever will be the new owner. It's in beautiful condition, really. Wonderful doll. Now, I showed you this doll was one of my favorites right here, lot number 45, and I showed you this doll by Leontine Romer. What I didn't show you at the time was she comes with a trunk that has a label in it from the Paris doll shop of Obangali, and she has 1, 2, 3, 4 original dresses and a plentitude of hats and accessories and undergarments and shoes and all. And she was written about in Doll News Spring 2002. Karen wrote a whole article about her. And we have all of the costumes that are shown here. And she wrote a whole article about this doll. So I want you to see that this will go with it too. And she called it Le Jeune Poupée de Dame avec Trousseau Spécial, Madame Romer's. And she has wonderful things to say about it. It's just a grand, grand piece, and with the provenance of Karen Rockwell's article that she's written, and that goes with it. I have some of the pieces in particular that I love. I love this little hat. Look at that. Has the lining on the inside. Just wonderful.